Everyone. So excited to be here. Looks like there may be a little bit of a delay, but with that said, hopefully it catches up with us. And I want to be um, share that I'm so excited for everybody to be here. This is the Hour of Empower, and this is really Beverly's Tuesday, where we focus on women's empowerment over 55 in that niche, but it's open to everybody naturally because a lot of this information is relative to situations, not just people. I also want to welcome Denise with us, who was here last week. It was a tumultuous session. We had four people at one time, but we all harmonized very well. And the word of today is comeback. So, with that, let me turn it over to Beverly. She can open the discussion on comeback. Chat's wide open. We depend on you for direction and to make us as relevant as possible. So, Beverly, take it away.
Hey, okay. All we need is a stage, Dawn. Okay, it's like, whoa. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned, women empowerment. It's not only about women. Nothing is really about women. Um, Women live in a life with men. We all have to work together. But the only reason that women have been suppressed for so long is very often they take second place. So when it comes to comeback or change, this is about everybody. And what I really also want to encourage is that people ask questions in the chat. How do you make a comeback? This is what we're here for. We're here to help. We're here to give everybody ideas for themselves. So when you're listening to the stories or you're listening to the things that we're talking about, always bring it back to yourself and say, how can this work for me? Because this is what any of these shows are about, whether it's Kelly talking or whether it's Harvey or Dawn. It's like it's not just about the story. It's about how can we relate to that story to empower ourselves. So this being a comeback, or as Denise and I were talking before, we'd like to get rid of this year first before we come back because there's so much to do in these last 2 weeks. It's like crazy. So, but right now, yeah, it's new year. It's a new year. And a lot of us start reflecting and thinking back and trying to make the old year better, or maybe it wasn't a good one, or maybe it was a great one, and how can we hold on to it? Or how will we change? And we have all these resolutions that work until February. And then we go back to the same old stuff. So when we're talking about comeback, I think what we have to think about is all of us come back from something. And right now, it's a storm. We're coming back also from the pandemic. We're coming back into travel. We're coming back into life in a way which has changed dramatically. Look right now, Dawn, you're doing a live, LinkedIn Live, and we were talking about how everything is changing and everybody, things crash and come back, right? And so this is what it's all about. It's about comeback, coming back stronger. How can you come back with the same vitality after you've been beaten? That is so huge. And so let's all talk about that. And I see that Harvey's out there, and yay, Harvey, I am a fan. And yeah, yes, everyone, yeah, we all have comebacks in our lives, and some of them are really hard, like divorce, and some of them are extremely easy, like I didn't want to do that anyway, and so now I have an opportunity to do something else. And I have to tell you, that's kind of my little comeback. I've had many, many, many. But one of them, I always wanted to work online, years and years and years. I had a website. I wanted to get out of the office. I love, love, love working in the office, no question. However, I wanted to do more. And all of a sudden, I kept on always saying, how am I going to get out of the office? In the work that I do, we weren't even allowed to be online until today. And now, because of the pandemic, everybody is online. And I kind of had a foot in the door ahead of time. And when my office closed and the whole clinic closed, it was like, whoa, did I have mixed feelings? No. Okay. Was it a comeback? It was a different. And that's how I want everybody to think of a comeback too. And that's whether it's a divorce, or whether it's even a death. And you have to come back because you're still alive. And you have to find power in whatever it is. Businesses can go, body parts can go. Think of athletes and that are on top of their game. And so, yeah, when you relate comeback, it's about strength, it's about resilience, it's about empowerment. And yeah, let's do this for the hour. Let's kick it, right? Okay.
Well, that's great, Beverly. And let's hear Denise's first take on comeback and where we are today going forward into 2024.
I absolutely love the topic of today because for my brain, it goes so many directions. And the thing that for me and my age and stage of life is that the comeback for me primarily is coming back to me, understanding the new me as I come back to understand my life trajectory up to this point. And now in beautiful retirement, I get to explore that in depths and time frames and support networks in ways that I have never been able to do before. So I love what you were talking about, Bev, in terms of this is for everybody. If I were able to give myself advice now to what I would say to my younger version of me in my 20s, I would have said, make sure that I spend some time every day, every week, whatever that needs to look like in the lifetime that I would be dealing with at that moment in my life. But what can I do to come back to myself? And not through the ways and roles that I identify myself through, but how empowering that will be for anybody and everybody who sees this as a new opportunity to think about coming back to ourselves in a new way, shape, and form. And I think it's Kelly here who's talking about the comeback is always greater than the setback. I love that. The setback, I think, provides us an opportunity to come back, right? So I think in order for us to come back in fullness of who we really are, the setback is the turning point with which we can use that as a jump off point to be able to come back to ourselves. So that's my initial thoughts around the whole aspect of this great conversation today. So thank you for having me here.
Oh, you're so welcome and honored to have you with us. And before I switch it back to Beverly, when I think of comeback, it's a continuous process of coming back, but coming going forward, right? You're either coming from somewhere or going somewhere. Sometimes you're falling back, sometimes you're pushing ahead, and the main thing is it should be two steps forward, one step back, not one step forward, two steps back. And as long as you're advancing, then you're coming back, right? You're rising. So, Beverly, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts go with both of you, both of you. Um, it's an evolution. And it doesn't matter where you are, we evolve. And if we only think of a forward trajectory, that's where you feel that you've fallen and that you have to come back and be better. And this is where I say it's a lose-lose situation. It really is, because you're always chasing who you thought you should be rather than being evolving into who you are, which is what Denise is saying. When you reach a certain point, you can perhaps check back and say, hey, look at where I am and feel fulfilled. But when we're on the journey of not realizing that it's a journey, that's where you have these setbacks. And where I feel really sad about it is when I've been working with clients that are athletes that started out as kids. And Denise, you've been working with kids your whole life. And when you see these kids that are super kids, and when I'm thinking of this, Dawn, here in Canada, right, and Montreal, Canada in general, but Montreal in particular, we have a hockey culture here. And what we do is we send our kids, not me, okay, and I would never have done this, but we send them to these really special schools in the US, which are boarding schools and training schools. And you do this for all sports as well, but for hockey in particular, that's what people do. And then these kids can become like really superstars and beyond if they're focusing on hockey. And I'm thinking of them, I mean, they start working them really young. And what I've dealt with, and I'm thinking of a few, but I'm thinking of one kid particularly, who was this superhero, and he ended up playing for the Montreal Canadiens and supporting his family. And I mean, this is a young kid when you think about it. And then you get an injury, right? And throughout your whole life, you've been known as this super kid in your community. You are a star, and people just look at you as like you're a special person. Now you have an injury. And so you go back from being on top in the league, playing for the Montreal Canadiens, which was your dream, and then you end up going to the juniors. And how demoralizing is that? And it's not only a pay, everybody knows. And when I checked the internet, I could not believe that every single statistic, from his body weight to, and you name it, it's there literally from almost birth, right? So where do you take somebody who is crushed, and then he leaves the juniors because of other injuries, and then tries business, and now he's an adult and he's not cut out for business? How do you come back from that, right? When this is what you know, this is what your dream is. And when I'm talking about hockey, you can go right back to anything, whether it's singing, whatever it is, piano, music. If you've been groomed for something and then it's over and you've reached your peak, now he did reach his peak with professional. Not everybody even reaches it for professional. Think of all the kids that start in gymnastics or whatever it is. It's like that is their focus, and they believe that they are supposed to be super achievers and they want to come back because this is what they know. So what we have to look at, and when I work with clients like this, is you have to evolve, like Denise was saying. It's an evolution. You say, yes, this is then, let's create now. And it's so hard because the fantasy is so much greater than the reality, and the feeling that I'm a loser and the feeling that I'll never be any good. And the perfection and the work that they've had to be to get where they want to be is incredible. And so when we look at comeback, I think all of us have to look at it not as coming back, but as moving forward, as just continuing to grow and saying, hey, this was wonderful. And the fact is, so I'm not going to reach that. However, everything you've done, you take into whatever you are. So you just have to learn new skill sets and you just have to look at life in a different way. And that's changing perspective. So it's not just coming back, it's evolving. And that's what I was thinking of, Denise, when you were saying the journey is to yourself. The journey is to where you want to go. And if you've had that experience, wow, that is beyond any experience that most people achieve. However, it mustn't destroy you. You have to feel valued. And this is where your support system around you has to be there, not push you further to be someone that you're not, or feel that you are a complete loser because you've had injuries, or because you already feel that you're a loser and you're letting everybody down. So, yeah, Dawn.
Well, I want to swing it over to Denise and really with the thought or question on the need or ability to change perspective in order to make a comeback, right? To accept a situation and to work from it. So, Denise, what's your thoughts relating to that?
It is an incredibly empowering pivotal point when you can take those opportunities and see them for the complete fullness that is available for us to be able to use it to move ourselves in whatever direction that might be. And I liked on what you said earlier, where you say one step forward, two back can be a heck of a struggle for sure. But I want to share the power when you recognize that you've taken two steps back and one step forward. That means you're in tune with what's going on. And I really don't see that you can have a comeback until you understand where you are. If you don't have the understanding or the awareness, you're just going to live the life. It's going to hit, and you're just going to complain about it all the time and never figure out what is the learning for me here? Why is this happening now? Why is it coming to me? It didn't go to my friend. It didn't go to my sibling. It came to me. Why me? Why was I chosen for this learning opportunity? Because I don't think I can handle it. And I love what you said too, Beverly, that support network. You do not have to do any of this journeying alone. But what is important, what I love what you said too, Beverly, was what is it that you are doing? And I'm going to say my typical mantra, for you, by you, because of you, in these moments as you are having that comeback. Are you doing the comeback for yourself, or are you doing it for outside reasons? And if you are doing it for outside reasons, take a look at that. Understand, why am I feeling that I need to do this way right now? Start to peel it apart like an onion and really dig in to understand. And when you start doing that work, that's when you start to grow. That's when you start to develop. That's when you start to really expand opportunities that you didn't even know about, that are right there for the taking as you live this life that you get to live, because nobody else can live your life. It's yours to live, right?
Well, absolutely. And to build on that, I think one of the keys is to have some balance as you're growing up, that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, or, it's going to be this or I don't know what. So I think, preparing for having options. I mean, there's people playing 4 sports and can choose any one of them if they want to play professionally. And there's people who have hobbies and professions that are priority over some of these short term things. You're only going to be a hockey player for so long, or a football player, but you're going to be a person for the rest of your life. And what do you want to do working on the person, not working on the profession? So, Beverly, what's your thoughts?
I think what you said is dead on, Don. Um, And when you were mentioning on 4 sports, it's it is the parents. Let's look at that, right? And of course, it's the community and teachers also. Um, if you're encouraging anybody on that track, and if it happens to be a child, the child doesn't know, the adult should. And you have to have balance in your life. But we can come back into business as well, because what happens very often in business is not reliable. It can be good, it can be bad. Look what happened in the pandemic. Things just closed down. How do you survive? And then how do you come back? It takes resilience. So it's not only um, looking at yourself and saying, what can I do? But it's also reaching out and saying, what is possible for me? How can things grow, and have a team around you? So what I'm always thinking whenever you get hit is not to go into yourself, because your head is not a good place. Okay. That is where you're going to be spinning. And the more stress you have in failure, the more you're going to be spinning negative thoughts. So, what you do have to look at is, how can I come back? And that can be on so many different levels. What is going on? The universe is out to get you. Let's face it, as soon as you're born, right? It's like something's going to hit you. It doesn't matter what. But you are constantly fighting. How can you do that? And I'm thinking of a client. I always think of my clients. I love my clients. But where she was last week, because of the pandemic, they were giving loans here in Canada that you had to pay back. And she found out that she, although they accepted it, was not eligible for this loan that she had taken, and it was $40,000 for her business. Well, what do? I have employees. This money is already spent. I was supposed to be paying. All these things come crashing down, right? You go to the bank. The bank says, no, okay. And then once, look, we're doing all kinds of business coaching, but business, I say, I don't never call myself a business coach. Business is people, and I help people, and people are in business. And so we can strategize and get that there. Well, the fact is there only one bank in Canada? No way. Okay. Are there people that you can reach out to? No, but I'm embarrassed. That's your first thought, right? Well, let's pump it. Let's see. And as you start talking about it, as you start thinking, there's so many different ways and strategies. Now, if you went the route that you're thinking in your head is, oh, I have to go to this bank, and if not, I'm going to this bank, but guess what? I don't have enough assets. Whatever you're thinking, okay, someone else is going to think differently and help you out. But you have to be able to reach out to the right people. So what I told her is, reach out to your accountant. They know people. If you know lawyers, reach out to your lawyer. I talk in mindset. I change people's thinking. They're talking the way they think. Everybody has a model. And sure enough, when I reached out to her and I said, are you going to, like, what's going on? Because I also gave her direction to an area where she may be able to apply for a loan. It's only 10,000, but 10,000 is better than nothing. And so she went there, and then she said, I spoke to my husband. He's speaking to people. I'm speaking to people, and what we're talking about is it's not all or nothing. In your head, if you're losing, oh, you've already lost, right? But once you start saying, what can I do? Once you reach out, once you get over that ego and say, I need help here, and we all need help, and it's okay. And you did nothing wrong, and even if you did do something wrong, you may need help. Project it, and then you become resilient, and then you become powerful. So it's about not only coming back, it's about changing. And look how much you learn. Look how much negotiation that she has learned. Look at how strategies are out there. It's all out there for all of us. And we just have to be resilient enough and creative enough to be able to reach out and get it. So, you know, that's what I just want to encourage to everybody, that when it's a loss, yes, you learn all the time. You're not asking to be taught, and you don't want to learn it at the time, that's for sure. And you could think about it afterwards. But I think the easiest way to do it is not to keep it inside, not to drink it, not to say, oh no, I'm fine, because we can all not be fine sometime, and that's okay too. And just to reach out, the more people you share your story with, the more help is out there. And some people may judge, but those aren't your people. So, Don, come back.
Yeah, for sure. And I just really enjoyed what you had to say because it's so relevant and everybody can identify with it. I think when you think of comeback, the traditional picture is a heavyweight fighter, right? Who, like Rocky, won a title, then lost it, now has to come back and get it. Or a movie star who was on top of their game for years and all of a sudden fell on hard times and are making a comeback. But I think what's essential to all of these stories is the team, is the people in the corner. So when you're making a comeback, it makes sense to reach out, to learn, to gather facts, to talk to friends, and put yourself in that mode instead of having to react before you're ready, because you need a lot of strength to come back. You need a lot of perseverance and confidence, and you can get that from people who still believe in you, who don't believe you fell off the top. So, Denise, this is a fascinating subject. Uh, how does the person out there in the audience really start to chart a comeback?
I believe exactly what you are saying, and as both of you are talking, the thing that I continue that keeps shouting through my head right now is the ability that people around you see you differently than you're seeing yourself. Like Beverly says, get out of your head. That is key, but it also is important for you to get out of your head so that you don't stay there and get stuck. It's important to have the emotional components. If you've been hit and it's hard, you have to sit with that. You can't run from it. You can't just jump up and go, okay, on to the next one, because that will come back. It'll always stay in your energy and your body, is what I believe. And so you have to be able to take the time, but also know that those around you can see things very differently. And one of the things that I witness all the time in the work that I do is that I listen to people's journeys, I hear what they're saying, and I see the strengths that they have within themselves that they do not see. And boy, does that ever change the conversation when we're able to say, look at what you did. Look at what you did through all of that. You did blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my gosh, I just felt like this. And I said, I am sure you felt like that times 10. But look at where you are now compared to where you were. And things start shifting as a result of those types of conversations because everybody has got strengths. And the last thing that we tend to see is the strengths in ourselves, especially the longevity ones, right? That we can see if we look at our life history. Wow, I was a connector from day one. I had no idea, but boy, when that came through for me and people said, wow, you're somebody that I can talk to you, you've got a calmness to blah, blah, blah. It's like, there it is. I didn't realize it, but that's who I am. And that just allows more time and space for me to understand myself better. And it allows for other people to connect with you at a different level as well. That's what I think anyway. Yeah.
Well, when you look at it, comeback usually comes from being somewhere you want to go back to, where you were happy at, right? Whatever, it's a friendship, it's a marriage, you would love to go back in time and make it what it was. And there's a point where you need to let yourself settle and relax into it. Too many people with their comeback react instead of respond, and they're fighting themselves in a paper bag almost, as opposed to space it out, and allow yourself the time to understand it. And it's a big deal. What you don't want to do is stage a comeback before you're ready. And now you've got two losses to make up for. And that's going to set you back. So, Beverly, it seems like timing and positioning are so important in comeback. What's your thoughts?
I think you're 100% right. Also, the feeling of believing in yourself is so important. And when I think of, like you mentioned, sports, I'm thinking Tiger Woods here, how embarrassing and humiliating. And here is these child athletes we were talking about, someone who was groomed, and how many operations this man had, and how he would fall in public and wanted to come back and did come back. He, in I think it's 2019 or wherever, he won the champion, the Masters. The the determination is what I'm hearing, from you, Dawn. It's like you have to believe in yourself. And you could say, oh my gosh, this guy is stubborn. It's like that man in the ring, Like, get it over with, let it go. You could do other things. But no, it's like you're working for yourself. It's an achievement. I want to do it. I want to prove it. And uh, you know, am I looking the same way? Well, now that I'm talking, I'm just kind of sharing that. Um, I can retire. There's no problem. I can sit back. There's absolutely no problem. When the door shut with COVID, it's like a lot of my colleagues said, okay, that's it. I'm not going to do anything else. But is this a comeback that I'm doing? No. Is it growth? Yes. Am I having ups and downs and ins and outs and aggravation and goodness knows what because it's business? Yes. Why am I doing this to myself? Why? Right? It's an evolution, and I thrive. I literally thrive on change and growth and personal growth. And to your point, Denise, when I go back, and I think we should all go back and take a trip, not down memory lane, but just those little points, and there are techniques to get there where you can actually see who you really are. I was always helping people. And it's a joke, when you actually see and you do these little pinpoint exercises, that we all have strengths, and we have to look at the wins. If I look at myself and I say, okay, I should be doing this, that, or this, that, and all these different directions, yes, you have to stop. And you say, look at the wins, look at the little things. And everybody has those little things. Even if Tiger Woods would not have won the Masters, that was a win. He was working on himself. He was trying. And sometimes we struggle, and it's hard enough just to get up in the morning. But if you did, and if you did just those little things and counted them as a win and not say, hey, it's no big deal. All I did was get up and watch TV. And you know what? Whatever it is, whatever it took, whatever the journey has taken you to do, if you're doing it and you look at yourself and you say, I'm trying and I'm getting back, take that achievement, bring it to your heart and say, yes, if I can do this, maybe tomorrow I could do a little bit more. We don't have to reach for the goal right away. what's the goal? It's the steps along the journey. It really is. That'll get you to whatever goal you can get, but it's every single day. You have to live that life to the best of your ability. That's what I really strongly and passionately feel.
Well,
Ron?
I think, to your points, Beverly, and you make some really great ones. We're talking about comebacks in a more visual way. Tiger Woods,
Okay.
Rocky, things that are glamorous and really bigger than life in some ways. But look at the person who just had a stroke, right? And is coming back, is learning to talk again, is learning to walk again. How big of a comeback is that? And you got to ask yourself with comebacks, who are you coming back for? If
Yeah.
you're coming back for yourself, it's a beautiful opportunity. If you're just coming back for fans so you can make more money, get more adulation, become superstar status again, well, that's not bad, but it's not as important as the everyday people. And I think the message is you should never give up on yourself and retire. To me, I retired at one point. Retire to me is watching the world go by as you maybe are comfortable and you have options, but every day becomes Sunday instead of Monday. And I love to work. I love to be with people. And this opportunity for live streaming where you can do it wherever you are
Right.
for as long as you want to be, as long as your next thought or word out of your mouth has relevance, you're still in the game.
Mhm.
And I think in a lot of cases in the past, mobility, accessibility became a big issue, right? If we had to go into an office every day and drive and work and come home, retirement makes a lot of sense. But if you're already at home or already in a place where you're comfortable, and I think there's a self worth that comes into actualization where you can create, you can still develop, you can innovate. You've got all this talent. What would be better? Because if not this, then that. If not now, then when? If not who, then what? Right? And it's really nice to reinvent yourself through a comeback. How many times
Mhm.
did people reinvent themselves, came back better than they were? I mean, you have people like Barbara Streisand or Cher or on and on and on that they continue to get ahead of whatever they were at
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
succeed. So I think they're the inspiration, but it's the everyday person who decided to push themselves a little further. And at the end of the day, the best comeback you can ever have is your health. Because without that, nothing else is going to be that worthwhile. So, anyways, moving it back to Denise. What's your thoughts
So
now
many.
on comeback?
It's so beautiful because it dovetails exactly into my life's vision belief system, which is learning is an opportunity for everyone every day. It's how you choose to take the learning opportunities that are available for us to move ourselves forward. So, in terms of coming back, I think there's a reason why the three of us have joined together today because I'm in the same boat as both of you. I retired from the day job officially in 2018, and I knew there was more for me. I had no idea what that was or how I was going to do it, but I just knew there was something more. So for me, it wasn't, I'm going to go and do this right now. I just knew there was something more. And so I gave myself some time and some space to see what would unfold for me. And going through that opportunity of self reflection and asking people and people reaching out, things evolve. They continue to evolve. So why not? Why not just continue to dig in every day, be grateful? I think it was Christine who was saying, I may not retire. I will not retire, right? Retirement is a state of mind, I think. So if state of mind in retirement, when I was growing up, I remember commercial, Freedom 55. You got the boat and you went on the seas. It's like for me, I feel freedom every day because I choose it. It's not about the retired life that provides the freedom. I choose what my freedom is and how that's going to allow me to do whatever it is I want to do when I want to do it, how I want to do it. And for me, that's a huge comeback because I was tied to a, you know, education system that had specific deadlines and all that, which I loved. But boy, this comeback is beautiful for me anyway. And it sounds like for the both of you that, you know what? Yes, there it doesn't mean that life isn't stressful. Of course it is. But we can do it differently as a result of the journey and of the desire to be ourselves through whatever it is that we are doing every single day. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what gives us value to people around us. They like to see people around them being industrious, being successful, being innovative. Just the ability to say, I can catch a third wave I never thought would happen. Right? I mean, in life, you look back and you said, well, I had a great wave here, and then I caught another one there, lasted 8 years or 12 years, or relationships like that. And when you thought it was never going to be possible, another one shows up because of technology, because of circumstances with COVID that forced everybody in away from the external opportunities people used to treasure, like trade shows and conferences and Paneras and Starbucks. Everything went to Zoom, everything went to Restream. And what's so cool is repurposing, is
Mm.
finding a new audience. I mean, how many old singers all of a sudden become popular? I mean, look at Tony Bennett. I mean, he went to whatever and he was doing Lady Gaga duets, and everybody wanted to be working with them. And sometimes you don't give yourself as much credit as people already give you. You in some people's minds, you're a superstar no matter how many records you're selling today, right? And that's your audience that becomes your community. And I think that's the key, is you always want to develop community. You always want to be part of something bigger than yourself, and collectively have something that you look forward every day to meeting and seeing. So, Beverly, what can you
Yeah.
add to this great conversation?
Well, we're all talking about the same thing and just expanding on it. And this is what I love about this. And I'm pulling what Christine was saying, I may not do the same thing, but at least I'll have a side gig. And that's the truth. And she says, maybe I'll go get my PhD just because I love school. Exactly, Christine. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's just keep on growing and do what you love, and you never know where you're going to be. And that's why on my podcast, which is Aging with Purpose and Passion, I am so passionate, not about aging with purpose and passion, but about the wonderful women that are there that continue to grow. And I think of so many, but I'm thinking of one in particular who's in her 80s and was brought up to be a wife and mom. And she was good at that, but she wanted more. And she could not get more because in the small town that she lived in, it was really not looked upon for any woman other than just raise your children. You should be happy with that, right? What are you complaining about? And to make matters worse, her husband was a lovely man and he was a pastor, and you just had to keep the status quo, right? And she broke out of that mold and she got a university degree. Not only that, a law degree, was working in Washington, put all kinds of laws together, signed all goodness knows she reached quite a pinnacle in Washington. And then she decided to retire, okay, because she was in politics and, there's all kinds of problems and comebacks that go along with that. And she decided from then, I always wanted to be a model and an actress. And guess what? she went from that to getting a portfolio, modeling, being a model and an actress, and then decided to retire again and went to Florida and didn't particularly like the laws and whatever was going on there, and became a mover and shaker in that community, and then decided, no, you know what? I think I'm going to retire again. And now she's become a book author and helps other people, other older women, write books. And she's getting a lot of press and everything else because of who she is and what she does, and just plain passion for everything. And she's also the first person I've ever met who lives in a tiny house. And I mean, have you seen that? I've seen them online. Tiny, tiny house, about as big as the room I'm in right now. So I'm saying that she has a love for life. And if you're talking about losing, here's someone that was in politics, or she could have spent her whole life married to this man. She's still really very fond of him, and they still have a really good relationship, but she was not a wife of a pastor. And she lived this huge, exciting life and continues to do so from her tiny house. And, I just admire people like that, that aside from her aches and pains and all the negativity or all the things that she could have said to herself, here was somebody that says, no, I want to live regardless. And that to me, you can come back, you can say evolution, you could say, I will not quit. I'm going to find the gold. That to me is empowerment. And I think that that's so inspiring. And so, Dawn, I don't know, it just came to me. What can I tell you?
Well, one thing I want to just add to what you just mentioned, which I think is very important and valuable, is the offset, let's say, to um, come back is to retire, right? Someone says, do you want to come back for another fight? And they say, yeah, I want to have another fight, or I just want to retire. I've had enough. And looking back in balance of one's life, for a long part, you're working really hard and playing very little.
Yeah.
And then people go from working really hard to playing very little to playing all the time and not working at all. Right? So if you retire from being a doctor, pretty soon you're on a golf course, on a beach, sitting looking at TV, but you're out of what you were part of for so long and worked so hard. And now you got all this leisure time, all these options, and you have no practice at it, right? You never golfed and you never decided to go to a beach, and you always focused on your profession. And what you're looking at is saying, well, this is going to be good for me because there's no stress. But who says stress isn't valuable in your life, right? When there's something you have to wake up for, And a lot of comebacks aren't easy, and a lot of people don't like what goes with it, but they know they need to do it for a certain reason. I mean, people who face certain medical procedures aren't
Mhm.
looking forward to it, know what's involved with recovery, but they're committed to a longer term. And I think that's the struggle of comeback as you get through it, because hopefully it gets you to the other side where you don't have to worry about where you've been and you can stop at the top. So with that, Denise, sure went in a lot of different directions today with comeback. We still got a few more to go. So what's your thought?
Well, I think it's so important, and you talked about it, Bev, in your empowerment discussion. And I think for me, the biggest thing is no matter what comeback is in your current situation or future, or when you look at your past, where you have done comebacks, I would absolutely feel that that comeback has to be driven and important for you, because otherwise you're doing it for outside reasons
Hmm.
and it's not going to have the impact and the learning that it can have because you're doing it for others. And we tend to live our lives like that. So, won't it even be most empowering if we do the comeback because it's what we decide as an individual, not because of everybody else's, or I saw that person do that, or this or that. Like you said, we've been talking a lot about retirement. And I know people who have done the retirement and they couldn't handle it. Like, I just can't handle it. They went back and did something else because of the stress. That was their journey. It doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make them wrong for not liking retire. Like, what is best for you? And why is that best for you? And when you come to terms with all of those pieces, you have done an incredible journey by coming back and like I said at the very beginning, to me, coming back to yourself and understanding yourself as an individual and what drives you. And that will change over time. And isn't that beautiful? Because when it changes over time, it means you're growing. Nothing better than that.
Absolutely. And, thinking of comeback, one can enjoy a partial comeback, right? I mean, if you look at the Rolling Stones, they just announced another tour and they're 81, 82 years old, but they're only going to have 12 concert dates, where maybe 40 years ago they play for a year and a half around the world. And the other thing is, do you need a public comeback or can you have a private comeback? Can you challenge yourself to do something in your way, made up for something, exceeded something? Usually a comeback is a reservation that stays with you, right? A dissatisfaction that I don't want to leave the way I just left or the way I was told to leave, right? So I'm going to stage a comeback and I'm going to leave on my terms, right? So I think that's where you get right with yourself. And that's enough to say it doesn't matter what people think. I have to do this to be more complete, or at least say I tried, right? And if you tried, that's a comeback, even if it doesn't succeed, right? If you did all you could with everything you had, you're still going to get somewhere. And I always tell people, even if you know you're not going to win, finish strong. Someone might see that and say you deserve a second chance, right? I mean, but you never give up. What are you giving up to or for? You'll have plenty of time for that after the game. So, anyways, Beverly, you were so articulate today in your definition of outcome. And it was just happened to be a word that was picked, but it seems also like we're able to surround a word and really start to understand what's inside of it and what it affects, and then how it can be applied. So, Beverly,
Well, I think you chose a perfect word for this time of year because uh, it's a new year and it's a time, all the time, of reflecting and saying, how can I do better? And nobody wants to do worse. And so it's that feeling of how can I make it better? And how can I make a comeback if I have fallen? And it's that type of reflection right now where I think we have to take those baby steps. And if you've had difficulty, health issues, whatever your issues are, financial issues, it shouldn't be the goal. It should be, or the comeback. It should be the one day at a time, the growth to get you where you want to go. And if we're always looking forward, we're going to lose because you will say, yeah, but if this didn't happen, I would be blah, 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 right? So it's those little wins, it's those little achievements that we just knock that are the big achievements. Getting up, doing it, calling the bank, which is really hard, taking that deep breath and calling a coach, taking that deep breath and doing what you have to do, although you don't want to do it. That's where your strengths are. And that's a win. And that is the first step to making your life change. And it's what we don't want to do that helps us. And we fight and we resist. And each and every one of us knows deep in our heart what we have to do. But why don't we do it? Right? So I think one of the things we should think about is don't resist. You don't have a growth mindset if you resist. It's how can I step into what I want to do, but don't want to do, if that makes any sense. But it certainly does to me, because that's the very thing you have to do that will give you personal growth. And I'm going to just, it's a little bit of self promotion here, but I do have a free workshop. It's absolutely free, and I'm doing it the last week, that's next week, on a Wednesday for an hour where you can reset for that hour. Believe me, there's no sales, there's nothing to do with call to action, nothing. Just come in and reset. And then what it also is envision where you want to go, what you want to do, step into that new mission, because we don't, as Denise was saying, spend time within ourselves. And now before New Year's is the absolute time that you can reflect, but take an hour for yourself. So I will leave that link if anyone wants to join. Absolutely. It's just a good experience for us all. And I'm doing it as well, because otherwise I won't do it. So I'm scheduling the Zoom. So I will join you too.
Well, thank you, Beverly. I hope everybody takes you up on that offer. And I think it would be a great value add for everybody. Let me just recognize Christine has a comment here. And let me just press that. Well, it's having a little trouble coming up, but what she says is, oh, here it is. I recently heard from a former colleague I hold in high esteem. She's an accomplished, published researcher, educator, futurist. Turns out I made an impact on her too, something unexpected. You never know how people really see you, and sometimes you're such a bully to yourself that you would never say and do things to someone else that you might allow yourself to listen to yourself here. And the key is coming back can be an enjoyable process. We frame it as like hard work and strenuous. Sometimes it's just putting one foot in front of another. Sometimes you've been down that road so many times, coming back isn't hard, right? It's just determining when and in what way you want to come back. So I think when people come back, they come back with more than just enough or just where I was. If they get on a roll, they don't want it to stop for a while. So, Denise, this is your second week in a row. I think you were just fabulous with your insights and comments and thoughts. And I think this show allows people to get stimulated through other conversation and the audience to come up with something that they might not have thought of or thought of come back. And now it starts to ripple not only outside in the audience, but inside, and saying, well, what other stones have I left unturned? What other definitions can I revisit? And how does that make me more of a comeback possibility or potential? So, Denise.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be in the room with both of you. It really is. There's a couple of things that are coming to mind, and one is tagging off of Beverly, the power of celebration in the small stuff. We do not stop to celebrate those wins. And it can be something as simple, like you say, I got my feet on the floor this morning and I got out of bed. That is a win, and you celebrate that. And then when I talk to people about that, they're like, but how do I celebrate that? Well, that just shows that we need to do more of it because celebration is whatever makes you feel good inside your own heart. That's what celebration is. And it could just be a note to yourself, a mental note to yourself, I did it. Very simple. Our toddler downstairs, our 18-month-old, I did it. She gets so excited. That's what we need to do again. We need to get excited about the small wins because we're missing out when we don't. And the other thing that I think is important is that I get to instead I have to. When we say it as I have to, it's a resistant energy and I have to do it and it's about external. When I say I get to, everything changes for me because I'm taking the lead in whatever that is. So those are my two ending thoughts. And thank you again. This has been just wonderful.
Well, thank you. And, one last thing I think that goes with everything to make people a little bit more appreciative is being grateful for what you have and what you've had, right? And not forgetting about the good. And if you look for good, it's there. If you look for bad, it's there. What was the purpose? And then for how long before you switch gears, right? And why not, you know, as you get older, it doesn't mean you have to lose all your innocence or your curiosity or your newness to new things. And I think that's what keeps people younger is ideas, are other people who are motivating, stimulating, empowering them, and vice versa, because you feel good when you know you still have the ability and power to help other people feel good and better. That's magical. If it's just you, well, there's a lot there, and you is you. But if it could be you and for everything you do, or with everything you do, uh, it's the imagination and the astonishment of what can tomorrow bring. What idea will I come up with that I never thought I would tomorrow? What can I start doing? And sometimes just being involved in something is enough. You don't have to be the champion, right? You can learn how to fish and not go out of your way, or golf and have a good time out in the sun walking around. So you really set your thresholds for happiness, for celebration. And sometimes why not get happy earlier in the day? Why wait until the last second before you go to sleep and say, I'm there? It's too late to use it. So, anyways, with that, I want to thank everybody for coming today. And I want to welcome everybody back tomorrow. Dave Snell will be here, and he's got a wonderful story of helping veterans transition from military life to civilian life, and doing a wonderful job in that regard. And, it's just lovely to see so many people walking down their path now and enjoying it, having a path and seeing that it's only getting better with time. So, with that said, thank you, Denise. Always thank you, Beverly. Thank you, audience. And we'll talk tomorrow if we can. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.